We are looking into Indian media narratives on the recent Bangladesh political crisis. So we have with us our panel members, uh, Swasti Chatterjee, Dravanti Ghosh, Rahul Namburi, and our own Qadruddin Shishir. So the recent political development following the fall of the Awami League government have led to a surge of misinformation and propaganda, not just in Bangladesh but across India as well. Our colleagues from India have been at the forefront of addressing these challenges, and today we are privileged to have some of the leaders of the Indian fact checking community with us. We look forward to hearing their insights on how they have encountered and debunked misinformation related to Bangladesh's political situation. And of course, Shishir is here with us, who worked extensively on exposing misinformation in India that directly relates to Bangladesh politics. So, with this introduction, I would start with a question. The questions are generally, open for all our panel members if I'm not directing specifically to any of you. The question is, we have observed Indian media outlets such as Asian Media International, NDTV, G News, and Mirror Now sharing misinformation on their X handles. I'd like to start with, this time we have a direction. Qadruddin Shishir. Since you have extensive experience in this field, could you please help us understand the situation? What prominent narratives have emerged from certain Indian media outlets in their coverage of Bangladesh political turmoil? Is there any dominant themes or patterns?
Thank you, Shoman Bhai, and the other distinguished guest from our neighboring country, India. So, I would like to divide the trends of disinformation and misinformation before 5 August and after 5 August. So, before 5 August, there were a lot of disinformation centering the revolution or uprising, what I would like to say. And the greater scenario was the disinformation and misinformation was sourced from inside, like from Bangladesh. So the dominant trends before 5 August centering the uprising was the terming or I say like terming the movement as an Islamist uprising, and the spreaders was websites, certain sections of Bangladeshi media, and hundreds of Facebook pages and accounts linked to the government, linked to the Bangladesh government and or ruling party. So they tried to spread the false narratives and false pieces of misinformation or disinformation that actually targeted the leaders of the movement and the movement in general as a conspiracy of Islamists. But after 5 August, since the apparatus of disinformation that was actually led by the late government disrupted, the same narratives started to appear in Indian media and Indian social media handles. So the narrative was same, and I can say is same now. So terming or identifying the leaders of the movement as extremists, it is our guest Salimullah sir previously in the previous session, he talked about a certain piece of disinformation centering Mahfuz Alam. So this is one example, but there are a lot of such examples, unsubstantiated claims, even proved disinformation peddled by different media outlets. I'm not talking about social media handles. So when it comes to Indian social media handles, there is a pattern of known X handles or YouTube channels or Facebook pages directly known as pro BJP or even BJP leaders like Nupur Sharma's Twitter handle repeatedly share false, outright false videos and news stories from pro BJP websites that actually always try to identify the revolution as an Islamist uprising in Bangladesh. And if I talk about single pieces of disinformation like picking a certain photo or videos out of context, so I can give more than 200 examples, such examples. So majority of those examples, those fake pieces of disinformation, were peddled or circulated by pro BJP social media handles, but a section of those videos, a number of those videos, disinformative videos or photos were also circulated or published by mainstream Indian outlets. So this is what we saw as a trend in social media and media before and after 5 August. And there is another trend, like one angle is this is an Islamist uprising, and the other is some media outlets try to show that Pakistani involvement, Pakistani intelligence involvement, or American intelligence involvement in the direct involvement in the uprising. So we didn't see it as a fact. There was no substantial reporting or investigation to show or to establish this fact, but still some media outlets in India, they made headlines after headlines on these lines, but with no substantial evidences. So there is another trend, and also there are some other. I'll talk about them later. So, in terms of media's involvement, media's involvement in spreading disinformation about Bangladesh. So these are two trends. Like one is identifying the uprising as a whole as an Islamist revolution or uprising, and it is orchestrated by foreign intelligences. And you know already about the communal angle of the disinformation scenario. So after 5 August, or actually on 5 August, on 6 August, there was some investigation done by Bangladeshi top media outlets and also by Hindu or minority rights organization. They found around 1,000 properties were damaged by attackers, so unidentified attackers, and 50%, around 50% of those attacks could be identified as directly targeted on Awami League leaders and activists. So definitely it can show that, and almost 90% of those attacks happened on 5 August or on 6 August. That also indicate about the political connection of the political motive of the attack. So if those attacks, majority of the attacks happened after, long after 5 August, like still, if there was the similar kind of attacks, similar number of attacks in Bangladesh, and we could identify them as communal because there is, after the, during the heat of the moment on 5 August or 6 August, uh, if majority of the attacks happened long after 5 or 6 August, like that was the heat of the moment, and that time actually people were motivated by political reasons, and they found easy targets. That is also heinous to target anyone. Actually, if there was a Awami League leader attacked or targeted unlawfully, that is not acceptable. But the reason behind those attacks, we can corroborate with different type of evidence that those attacks were motivated by political reasons, but Indian media consistently try to show that those were actually communal attacks. So these are the top trends I observed in Indian media and social media, as you
Thank
asked.
you very much. I mean, from your deliberation, we found a few issues like, you talk about the role of Godi media and, the conspiracy theory, like, the deep state theory of Arnab Goswami and others. So, well, there are other medias beyond Godi media in India, right? So I'd like to hear from our friends, fact checker friends, that is it that the Godi media is only propagating this or circulating this, or there are other liberal media who has a stand against of this narrative, except for fact checkers, because we know that fact checkers are actively on the issue and debunking it. They're sometimes they're guiding us actually, but how about mainstream media? Rahul.
Hello. Uh, Hello, everybody. Uh, so, thank you for inviting us here. Also, just to clear that we are not from the mainstream media or lab media. We are fact checkers from India, actively work with different partners across, wherever fact checkers are there. So, Cesar, you very clearly stated, uh, we need to understand something that, you know, like all neighbors are not equal. That was said before. And media houses in India are very powerful. They can set any narrative. We, we've been seeing that. Okay. So, what I would first I would like to talk about what were the main themes of misinformation we were seeing, and then I'll move over to the main stream media. So one was old and misleading, visuals. That's how it started from. Then past incidents of Bangladesh, they were recycled as the current, incidents. Then came false narratives of mass rape and murders of minorities. I mean, it had, my colleague Dravanti, uh, her father was worried, just before she was to leave for Bangladesh, because he received a WhatsApp message saying, Hindus or minorities are not safe, and there is mass murder or rape that's happening. So you can imagine how narratives are being set. Okay. Then the fourth one was communal disinformation, uh, which was created by fake Indian accounts. So why fake Indian accounts? Because these accounts were created on or before 5th of August. So they were very actively posting certain narratives. Okay. Then came images, use of AI images, visuals create a lot of, they can incite a lot of emotions. So visuals, visual images were created using AI, and they were circulated. Then, you know, um Lastly, it was targeting political leaders in Bangladesh, maybe extremist leaders. So that's how these were the six trends that we saw. Now for the mainline media, they, for us, it was like they were oversimplifying complex issues. You know, on ground realities Bangladesh were different, but for them it was a binary struggle between secularism and extremism. And that is what it was echoing. Again, you know, politics interest were taken into consideration because obviously every country have their own align, you know, it's just like a flip thing because minorities here are majority there and majorities there are minorities here. So how do you take benefit of it? Then misinformation around protests. This is about mainstream media. And then it was role of social media, their handles and all. Like specifically you talk about Z and ANI. Uh, they were exaggerating. I mean, there may be small pockets of incidents, but it was as if the entire Bangladesh is, you know, writing or just so exaggerating on it. Uh, for Mirror, I think, Times Now, it was more about election based, the previous cycle of election, that it was rigged. However, the observers, European Union and fact checkers have clearly stated that that is false. So yes, mainline media, because there's a lot of people, easy access to, and predominantly from old times, I think there is a trust in media, there's a trust in news. And if the narratives are being set from there, it becomes easy. And like Sisir said, then there are ideologies that come into play. So yes, complex, you know, ecosystem. Also, we need to understand so how social media platforms they work. The most engaging content, it can't. So content that is getting more interactions is you know up there in visibility. So if it is an organized way or if there is an ideological way, the content automatically, you know, people are going to engage with it, and the you know, visibility is high, and that also results in you know, naive people or people who don't, who just take things for granted, taking it in a way that, you know, the neighboring country is actually going through, you know, even in mainline media, it was more about economical, you know, collapse. So these were the trends that we were seeing, and I mean, uh, we could summarize, like, you know, the situation that was put forth was completely collapse of Bangladesh.
Swasti, you would want to add something?
Yes. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shuman, for inviting all of us. Adding to Rahul's trends, what we at Boom Fact Check saw, initially after August 5th, there was a surge in Islamophobic claims. I mean, say if we would fact check a claim surrounded by Islamophobia once a week, we were, fact checking at least 2 to 3 such claims once a day. We also saw in the mainstream media how Bangladeshi Muslims were targeted. Now, we have to understand how the mainstream media works in India because most of the mainstream media has a very powerful web desk. I mean, there's an entire team of journalists working in the web desk. I mean, it's the same in Bangladesh as well. And they just wait for news breaks. So immediately once the news breaks, you will see unrelated content, mostly, very violent content in terms of the Bangladesh uprising that was there out there on X, and X doesn't have any control whatsoever in containing these kind of content. So these content were picked up by the web desk of, say, how Professor Salimullah said about Republic Bangla. we fact-checked the article that you mentioned, where, an Awami League leader of Chandpur was very heinously attacked and killed. That video was shared by Republic Bangla initially with claims that Hindus were attacked in Chandpur. So it was one of the very first fact checks that we had to do on August 6th, just a day after after Sheikh Hasina fell. Also, another trend that we saw is how the hashtag Save Bangladeshi Hindus came back. I mean, this hashtag was continuously used on X, on Facebook, to amplify these videos. I mean, these are not unrelated videos, but the narrative set with these videos were not what we were looking for. Uh, Boom Fact Check does a monthly study, and in August, just in the month of August, where we produced 103 fact checks across languages of English, Hindi, and Bangla, we found 47.7% related to Islamophobic claims only related to Bangladesh. That was a huge number. Another trend that we also noticed was how repeated false claims were amplified by news organizations, including Republic. Sudarshan News, that is also a news organization that is extremely pro-right, and that has been fact-checked several times by all us fact-checkers. That was proactively, peddling disinformation about how Hindus are being attacked. I mean, indeed, there have been reports of Hindus being attacked, but the kind of narrative that was set in India was absolutely opposite what was happening on ground in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Swasti. I would also like to hear from you about what pro-left media did, in the case of our, political turmoil and after. But before that, I want to invite Ruby Dhingra, who will be connected with us through Zoom. So, Ruby, are you here? Hi, Ruby. So, thank you for joining because Ruby was supposed to come and join us in person. For some health issues, she couldn't make it. So, Ruby, if you follow the discussion that we have, we are trying to kind of find out the trend of misinformation, particularly by mainstream media regarding the Bangladesh, uprising political turmoils and aftermath. So, do you have anything more significant to add, trend to see and add with the discussion? Ruby, just a minute. You are being connected via audio. The audio is still not. Can you check the audio? No, you're fine. You're fine. Just our audio is not working here. Just give us a second. একটা mic ধরো। Quickly. Okay. Now floor is yours, Ruby.
Right. First of all, I would like to thank for inviting me. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be there in person. I was really, unfortunately, I had a severe case of conjunctivitis. And even though, as Drabanti's father has been getting those messages, my parents have also been getting those messages. So they've also been concerned, but that is not the reason why I haven't come. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody in the building on what my fellow fact checkers from India have already said, they've covered a lot of it, but I also want to do a full disclosure. I was part of mainstream media earlier for about 14 years. I was a news reporter, presenter, producer. So I've seen that side of television news. And while I have a completely separate, very controversial take on, or a hot take as it is called, I particularly think that 24/7 news channels do not have any place in today's day and age, considering the fact that we have social media. And all the problems that my fellow panelists have spoken about are basically a problem that the larger fact checking community is facing in this region. It is that speed is being prioritized over accuracy, and when that happens, these problems will happen. Um, when you're talking about the kind of exaggerated claims and the political claims, I think somebody had mentioned on the panel, this is something that we've been seeing for the last, say, maybe from 2021, 2022, when the um, Durga Puja Pandal attacks had come to light, and there were a lot of false videos that were circulating claiming that in Bangladesh, Durga Puja Pandals have been attacked by Muslims. That was a very controversial claim. It kind of led a lot of sentiment in India. Similarly, must try to understand that in India and Indians have their concerns, and Indian television caters to that. That is their primary audience. So it is going to talk about things that they think that Indian media or Indian audiences care about. And as far as Islamophobic, I think Swasti was highlighting how the content that was Islamophobic was rising. I would actually like to broaden that a little bit. While I agree with what Swasti is saying, I want to indicate that that's happening in this entire region. If you see the kind of social media activity that starts from outside of a particular country when a crisis situation starts developing, it happens in India as well. When there is a crisis going on in India, there is a lot of misinformation that is spread by handles which are based outside India, and they pretend to be Indians, or they pretend to be people staying in India, and they pretend to be somebody who has vested interest, and they kind of then start circulating messages. We've seen this in the past, and I'm sure Rabanti and Swasti will agree on this, that there are a lot of bad actors, especially on places like Twitter, where the handles are probably created just so that they can go and create mischief or create controversy by changing their handles. Anytime a new incident happens, the handle name changes, and then it starts tweeting pro a certain ideology or anti a certain ideology. So sometimes in our fact checking, when we have gone back and seen what was this handle's name a few years ago, or when did this Twitter handle get created, we see a lot of times that the same handle had a particular name a few months ago, and it was tweeting in support of a particular party or a particular ideology. And depending on how the news story progressed or how the incidents in the country or in the region progressed, the same Twitter handles had changed their name completely, and now were batting on the other side of what they had been arguing earlier. So there are a lot of bad actors also online, which we should kind of keep in mind. Coming back to my point about Indian media's role, I believe that was your question, right, Professor Shomar?
Right, right.
So, like I said, they are catering to what Indian audiences want to see. Is it sad? Is it unfortunate? Yes, it is very unfortunate that they want to see that kind of content. And I know that media cannot, like mainstream, like that. This has been a long-standing demand of people who have actually kind of a lot of fact checkers in India have journalism background and have come from such mainstream newspapers or mainstream TV news channels, and I think one of the reasons why they had also moved because they felt that objectivity and nuance was lacking, and they couldn't do the kind of good work that you know um, we actually want to do, which now we're able to do in fact checking. So do these concerns, my question to you would be that do these concerns not sort of are these not concerns in Bangladesh? I'm sure that the Bangladeshi media is talking about things that the Bangladeshi audiences are interested in. Similarly, another thing about a lot of religious and minority, the concern about the attacks on minorities was there. It kind of did not wane out, or it was not nipped in the bud immediately. Then there were protests, there were visuals of protests. While it is true that a lot of articles have found that there were Hindus who were attacked, but they were attacked because of their political affiliation, and they were not attacked because of their religious preference or or their religious identity. But it becomes very, very tricky to fact check certain things online because of the way a particular social media user has phrased their point online, right? It is true that if in a hypothetical example, it is true that that person might be Hindu or might be of any minority. That the second point could also be true that they were a supporter of, say, the Awami League or a position holder in the Awami League. Both of those identities could be true about the same person. Now, why that person was attacked on, why that person's house was attacked upon, is like, how do you fact check somebody's motivation, right? You can't fact check motives. So it becomes very difficult to actually go down and say that this person was actually attacked for this reason and not for this reason. How can you say that definitively?
True,
Right?
true.
So if the way that fact checking works on social media platforms is that it has to be a completely false, or there are various kind of ratings that we apply in terms of how we analyze how false or how true a particular claim is. So there are these concerns also. I hope I've made some things clear.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And of course, you are right saying that we can't fact check intentions of people. Having said that, you said that
Well,
Indian media.
actually, I think you had mentioned Arnab Goswami also. Now, the thing is that this deep state, America's foreign hand role, all of these arguments have been here since in Indira Gandhi's times in India. So again, how do you go around fact checking somebody who's propagating a conspiracy theory?
Right. So, I mean, you said that Indian media is circulating this information, that information, what people would like to listen from media, right? So, by saying that, I think I see a danger in this argument because I mean, the similar thing happened in the case of Bangladeshi film industry a decade ago. Like, film producers and directors, they started making films in a certain way, in a certain masala, and they said that this is what people want, but people didn't want
No,
that. People
no.
rejected
So I
it.
think let me clarify on that. Maybe the choice of wording was not the best. What I'm saying is that in terms of the themes that they choose to do, on primetime television, out of 10 things or 10 news stories that happened in a day, how do TV channels decide what they are going to show on their primetime news? They kind of decide what themes are going to be popular. I'm
Right.
not talking about the content of what they're peddling in
Or
their
the positions,
their
right?
1 hour show. I'm not commenting on the position they're taking or the content they're propagating or even their presentation skills. I'm talking about the themes. So if the theme of minorities under attack is something that does resonate with Indians, and therefore it is of interest. I'm not for 1 minute am I suggesting that they're right in kind of sensationalizing all of that. I don't stand for that. But I'm talking about the themes which are being talked about,
Thank
which
you.
is why I was saying that 24th news channel, then if a channel has to run 24/7, then there is a compulsion on it to kind of show something new all the time,
Thank
right?
you.
And it
Thank you.
ends up giving sort of fanning the flames of something minor, which is not even not
Was the flood incidents. So, taken together, we observe Indian media being bit dominated by Indian soap opera. We see anchors like, in a very dramatic mood, they come to the stage and, perform in a very bizarre way about what would happen to India, Bangladesh if, the floodgates are open and Bangladesh is now crying. And then, I mean, what kind of journalism is that? So, I mean, I'm worried because our journalists are looking forward to it and they soon will learn it, right? So, I mean, this is something India is always, they actually teach us in many different ways. So, I mean, is there any precedence of this kind of journalism in India? So I'm talking about propaganda, not misinformation in general. Like,
So,
so, yeah.
see, my take on it is like it was spoken before. Why media houses don't have fact checking units? They cannot. Please understand, these are business houses. There is a business to do. Clickbait headlines, uh, theaters and newsrooms, you know. My take is now journalism is, it's hard to find. You find actors screaming on top of your voice, speculating on something is not news. And all I would say, please don't learn that from Indian media. Please save yourself, don't learn that. These business houses may prosper, but the citizens are going to suffer. Don't do that. So yes, why competition? If you have hundreds of news channels, TRPs in question, businesses, what are you going to do? You will have to, be ahead of the game. And being ahead of the game means you'll have to add certain elements of, you know, uh, theaters and actings and things like that. So competition, TRPs, business, real journalism needs to be.
Is there any policy like, can do anything for TRP, or there is a
Well,
policy,
it,
sir?
it looks like there are policies, but it looks like speculation. What are you going to do with headlines? You know, uh, I would not go there because but headlines can be checked.
I mean,
You
of
will
course,
because that incites interest, that probably nationalism, like something, it's going great. Uh, but news should be news, and it should be reported the way it is. There should not be biased. Human tendency is we would like to believe something the way we want it, but it should be reported the way it was, not the way certain people would want it to be.
right. So maybe Dramanti can add something to it, and then Swasti.
Yes. So just to add to, see, all the panelists here have already covered most of the points. And just to add to what Ruby was saying, other than mainstream media, social media has also played a huge role in creating the narrative about the Bangladesh crisis. So speaking about social media, what one trend that I feel was particularly problematic for us to fact check was that we received, so we have a WhatsApp number where all our readers, whoever is visiting our website or have interacted with us, they send us claims. So we have received a huge amount of pornographic content claiming to be from Bangladesh, that this is how sometimes it is Hindu women, sometimes it is Muslim women. It is targeting both the sides, and they are showing. I mean, the claim is basically that this is what is happening. And there have also been videos where people say that this is what people in Bangladesh did with our Hindu women, so we will do the same with, the minorities in India. I mean, these are quite big claims that you're making. And then gradually we saw that these particular claims started changing a little bit. Earlier, it was how Bangladesh, people living in Bangladesh are torturing the minorities. Then it started becoming that, okay, now we will also do the same. So here is a video. But if you actually go and search these are all pornographic contents. All of them picked up from, sleazy websites, not even like here, when we started finding that, okay, where are these people getting this content from? Because there is also a ban on pornographic content in India. So we started searching and we understood that, okay, these are very small, sleazy pornographic websites from where they will just pick up few minutes and then they started sharing. So there also, again, we found that these websites also have communal categories. I mean, there are categories, there are people who are probably interested in seeing content particularly targeting a religion. So it is both the religion, it is never one-sided. But people are picking up that content and they're sharing it. If you trace back this, see, because it is WhatsApp, we cannot ever go and find out who was the first person who uploaded the video. But we tried getting in touch with people who have actually sent us the claim just to understand that how did you get this video. Mostly it was through friends. We understood that this kind of content was not forwarded among families, something that we have, while I do media literacy training, I've seen that misinformation is hugely forwarded among family members itself. But these were like, okay, my colleague had sent this, or my friend has forwarded to me. And then if we try tracing back somebody, few cases we found that, okay, it was some account on X, because Facebook usually we've seen that they demote such content and they put a label probably that this is pornographic or violent abuse content. But in X's case, that was not the case. So we saw that some of them came from there. And as soon as you ask a person, if we go and reach out to them, people have deleted those content as well. But again, you delete that post on X, but it is now viral on WhatsApp. So that is one major trend that we saw. Some cases, yes, there were cases, some videos, we saw that indeed there were cases where some, a girl from either of the minority community in both the countries, they traveled somewhere outside. In the college only, some of them were raped or abused. Some did it as a part of, they said that it was just a prank that we were doing through which, it was basically abuse, but then it was a part of a prank that they were doing. And these people were not even living in India. I mean, they are Indians or they are Bangladeshi women, but they are traveled somewhere outside. And if you trace the original instances, you will see that, okay, people have traveled outside. A lot of Bangladeshi women come to India also. There have been instances with them, and probably they are not that, they are not the kind of instances that the messages are claiming that, okay, this person was just walking on the road, incident that happened in 2021. But this was also quite a disturbing trend that I saw on social media, that, that added to the fuel in this, added to the fuel that probably set very different narratives on people from both the countries.
So when we say social media, is it the media pages of social media or individual public?
Independent users.
Independent
Media
users.
pages, we could not find such kind of pornographic content published by media pages on social media that, okay, this is the incident. But these were independent users. And again, as Ruby also said, that these are users who keep on changing their names on social media platforms, whether
As
it
per
is,
needed,
yeah,
yeah.
as per the narrative they want to set.
Okay, thank you, Dravanti. So before I go to Swasti and Shishir, and I would like to add one more question to what has been on the table. Is that uh, it's like, India is a diverse country, and we see a lot of hate speech, Islamophobe narratives coming in from Indian media, social media. So, although the demarcation doesn't mean anything, but it's kind of a general um, query from our part of the world is that which part of India or which language in India has the most, you know, disinformation and propaganda about Bangladesh, particularly in the context of Islamophobic narratives and so on and so forth? Because we don't know much about other languages. You know it, right? So maybe you can put your insight on that.
So I would not say that one particular language is responsible for creating misinformation or disinformation about Bangladesh or any other country that is going through a crisis. But yes, understand that if you divide, India is a huge country, there are so many languages, and if you divide the country in two halves, if you go to the south of India, they will not understand English or Hindi. Or if you go to the north, they will not understand any of the south languages. So mostly misinformation in India widely occurs in two languages that is spoken by majority of the audience, that is Bengali, that is English and Hindi. But yes, these languages are again, these narratives are again translated to regional languages. So we have, we are doing fact checking in India in 10 languages. And we find the same kind of claims going viral even in Tamil. Probably it has first come on social media in Hindi, because Hindi is something that is widely spoken, or English is a language that everybody would understand, including North and South, most of the people living in India. So maybe it has come from there, and then, but it gets equally translated in every language. If you pick up, if you go through the fact checks that we've done from the fifth till now, all the languages will give you equal contribution. And sometimes, yes, this has also happened in India also regionally, that narrative changes. So narrative probably that has gone viral in Hindi, if it is being shared on the southern part of India in Tamil or Malayalam or any other local language, the narrative changes again there. Narratives would change or the target audience would change. So I would not say that it is one particular, and yes, if it is, if we are speaking about the Bangladesh crisis, because Bengali is a prevalent language here, obviously there were claims in Bengali as well, but again, it was always, we also have this thing that every language contributed in this misinformation that is.
Thank you, thank you. I have one last question for Swasti and Rahul, and then definitely we'll go for open question answer. Uh, do you think such a surge of misinformation can have serious diplomatic consequences, or the other way around? Did an assumed diplomatic disaster cause the upsurge of misinformation during the period of monsoon revolution?
Uh, Definitely. Hello. Am I audible? Yeah. No. So definitely, yes, it does. Uh, this was seen in 2020. Indo-Nepal, there was a conflict in Lemi Lake area. I forgot the name. And, the narrative was Indian forces are marching and things like that. Obviously, it created a lot of tension between two countries. Diplomatic, citizens getting worried. So even both of them are the same, Hindu countries. So imagine that happening elsewhere. Yes, diplomatic relations do come under, stress during these times. And there is, I think, the impact is overall because when citizens get involved, people whose families or people who are residing in India from Bangladesh and vice versa, they are the people who get affected the most. What, please understand, if you're residing, if you have a family in India and you are flooded with such kind of misinformation or these small pockets exaggeration, imagine the ordeal that family goes through. So yes, definitely
Thank you.
diplomatic
Thank you.
relations get distorted.
Swasti?
I think
Then I'll come to Ruby.
I think more than diplomatic relations, as fact checkers, we were very much concerned about what was happening on the ground. Like, based on one piece of misinformation, a large group of Hindus had gathered in the Bangladesh border, thinking that they'll be, transferred to the Indian border. This kind of misinformation did trigger a lot of panic among the citizens of India and the citizens of Bangladesh. Also, secondly, what I would like to point out is that the fact-checking community in not only in India, in Bangladesh, and also in several other countries, it's very small. The kind of narrative that the Indian mainstream media is setting. For example, a primetime show can term the Bangladesh protests as a genocide, and related to Gaza and the happenings in Gaza. It depends on the fact checkers to either spend your time and energy in fact checking that narrative, or you go to social media that is more available to people and fact check, say, a rape video that Drabanti was talking about. Like this, that was also one of the first fact checks we had to do, a rape video of a Bangladeshi woman who had traveled to Bangalore, and she was brutally raped by 4 to 5 Bangladeshi men. This happened in 2021, and then the men were arrested. That video, that horrific video, came back, and as fact checkers, I think such kind of videos create more impact than the narrative being set by mainstream TV anchors with their own histrionics. As fact checkers, we mainly focused on the narratives which were going around on social media.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would like, hello. Yeah, I would like to add to the diplomatic part. So when the entire thing happened in Bangladesh and former prime minister was, she moved out, There were reports like, Indian government or the military helped her getting out from the country. Now, please understand the repercussions, what is going in this country and what impact does that make in this country's India's involvement in internal affairs. Like, so, those kind of things, those kind of narratives when they are set, is that nationalism, obviously, it would get invoked here. People would question what has India to do with our internal matters. So, yes, it distorts.
Yeah. Thank you. Ruby, are you listening?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
I want to go back to something that you had mentioned earlier. You had put a question forth to Drabanti to ask her about which language these claims are in
Yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah.
And so I actually think that that is a very dangerous kind of way of thinking. Like that's not. I think that that's going to muddy the discussion and the work that all of us as South Asian fact checkers are trying to do, because as part of the larger global fact checking community, you're also aware of the fact that most fact checking tools, most fact checking work, the research that is coming out of it, on how to kind of most open source intelligence tool, OSINT tools as we call them, they are not catering to a lot of South Asian regional languages, right? And this is the struggle that like Factor Sendo and Newschecker are companies in India that cater to maximum number of languages. And this is I guess Rahulji will kind of agree with what I have to say, that just because you don't have the resources to kind of monitor in a similar way in a particular language doesn't mean that that language might not be seeing misinformation. Please understand that India is a very, very vast country. It has so many languages that you can't, it is not possible. I mean, I have a team of 30 people, which includes fact checkers, graphic designers, admin people, HR people, like, including also the actual number of fact checkers is less, and for them to kind of do all of these things, it's not possible. But that is the challenge for the South Asian fact checking community. One is that these tools don't exist in the languages that we work in, and B, then the people who are working in fact checking, they don't have the correct training at this point of time, right? There are very few trained fact checkers in South Asia who can kind of monitor social media. And then the third is just the amount of misinformation coming out of all our countries. It's just too much to kind of keep pace with. So, given all of these things, to say that, oh, there is more misinformation in one language and there is less misinformation about a particular issue in another language, is is not the correct metric you should be looking at, because if you look at that metric, it can mislead us and our assumptions and our future actions. The second thing is that similarly, I think a lot of journalists also ask me that which platform has more misinformation than the other. Again, this is also very contentious, because just because it depends on what you're monitoring, it depends on what fact checkers are monitoring. There are some social media platforms that have created tools so that you can monitor misinformation on their platform, but there are other social media platforms that are making it harder for you to even use advanced search into their own platforms, so that you are not able to find it, right? So does that mean that the platform or the language where you find more has more? That's not a fair argument. That is not the right metric we
Thank
should be
you.
looking at.
Thank you,
The
Ruby.
other thing is also everything that we're talking about points to media literacy being the need of the hour, because I've been going around doing fact checking trainings, and when I do this kind of a game where I ask people to identify what is a fact, what is an opinion, and what is a rumor, and I give them, like, I show them examples, and then we play this game. And it is so sad to see that people cannot even differentiate between something, a statement that is a fact, a statement that is an opinion, a statement that is a rumor. So in that situation, when our people, our fellow citizens are in South Asia, are not able to even understand what is written, is this even a fact, is this an opinion? What you were talking about earlier on mainstream media, mostly what people are kind of repeating again and again is their opinion. They shouldn't be doing that. That is not what journalism stands for. But they have 1 hour of content time to fill, so they're just kind of putting a lot of opinion in it, and the audiences are watching it. And this is a slow process, because there are a lot of problems between India and Bangladesh. There are Bangladesh nationals in India. A lot, whenever there is one incident of theft happens, there are tweets and posts about, oh my God, there are Bangladeshi nationals in India. They should be kind of not, they should be sent back, which is not, it is unfortunate that these narratives are there. So when something as big as this happens, all of the misinformation narratives that have been going on for the past few years, they all culminate into this one big thing where then they start kind of saying that there is radicalization of young people in Bangladesh, and this is a concern for India. This is, I mean, I'm not saying something new. Terror and radicalization have been India's stated concerns in the international community. So it's a slow process. It is not that one particular incident leads to something big. It is that, the perception setting has been happening for the last few years. And that is why we are at this position where we are right now.
Thank you, Ruby. So, with that note, I'd like to, end the discussion here. But we have this question and answer session for the audience. If you have any question, we can afford a few minutes for you, and then we have to jump into the lunch. So, any question? Yes, Salim bhai.
It's more of a comment rather than a question. Question of languages in India. Is there an Indian language? You will say no, there are many languages. Now, if you, English is the only lingua franca, so to speak, bridging over South and North India, because many in the South doesn't understand or doesn't like Hindi. We know there's the elaborate history of Tamil Nadu and other areas. Then the question is, if you have to have an Indian literature or an Indian language, it has to be in one of Indian languages or in Indian languages. And they are multiple. So the only language today, this is the ironic situation, which can unite North and South India or East and Western. Even in times of Pakistan, East and West Pakistan were connected by English. So now English, here is the contradiction. Though I was a little bit pleasantly surprised to know that everybody understands English in India. If that were the fact, it would have been the wonderful thing. But I have facts from other Indian scholars who say that about 1% of educated people in India can use English in a competent manner. Now, I don't understand what do you mean by understand. If 100% of people in India understand English, then there would have been no linguistic problem. This remains a crucial theme in Indian society, whether India is a nation. And then we can say, if India is a nation, then it is certainly not a linguistic nation. So what kind of a nation is this? Now, North and South India has other problems. Since the times of the Ramayana, we have the story of Ram and Ravana. And M.S.S. Pandian, the famous professor from Tamil Nadu, he used to argue that in his book, Brahman and Non-Brahman, that the only thing that binds India, North and South, is Hindutva. It's not Hindi, but Hindutva. Therefore, we are Hindus, you are Hindus, so it is the Vedas rather than Hindi. So I think in the sphere of fact-checking, we are simply repeating the same problem in a kind of roundabout way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other response? Yes, over there.
Thank you. I'm Amena Islam, Digital Team Lead, US Embassy Dhaka. So I have a quick question about colleagues and fact checkers from India. So we were talking about social media impact during this student-led movement and the kind of videos we have seen, which is very disturbing, specifically the woman that Didi said. So as a fact checker, and the community is very small, as you were saying, and in Bangladesh it's also like emerging. So what do you think, like during this kind of situation, because which has escalated a lot more misinformation, changed narrative, impacted in a different way? So, and of course, mainstream medias are more about TRPs, more clicks. It's about earning money. I think it's a worldwide kind of, sorry, kind of the same basic idea for any businesses. But also there is a ground of moral ground, we say, right? That's where the visualization actually impacts your imagination. That's where you are establishing the truth, regardless it's actual the truth or not. So what do you think could be a from Indian perspective, could be fact checker's role while countering this kind of misinformation when it's like happening in cross-border situations? And if I just give you one example, like during the situation after August 5, we have seen specifically Dhruv Rathi, the very prominent social media influencer, YouTuber, who has put like one video, but there is also an account of Dhruv Rathi parody where we have seen like a lot of those misinformation has been countered by them. So definitely I'd like to thank them. And there has been another fact checker, which name is Mohammed Zubair from Alternative News. Those are a couple of like few accounts who has actually countered those narratives, which are like misinformations about either communal violence or like this kind of disturbing videos. So how do you think you can empower, or what are the narratives from the fact checkers inside India about countering those information in Bangladesh? That's my question. Thank you.
So just to say that as fact checkers, our jobs here are not just to find content on social media and fact check them. I mean, it was never that. I mean, I feel that fact checkers have a huge role in also making people, I mean, realize that what you are consuming. I mean, just that question thing. So I think the solution here is always media literacy. I mean, our job is not just to fact check content, it is also to go to reach out to people and tell them, okay, when you have received a message, did you even think why I am receiving it right now? So in this case, two things is very important. First would be via media literacy workshop itself. First would be pre-bunking, and second is encouraging more and more of critical thinking. I know it is not going to be, I mean, it's not the case that I'll take just one session and the next day people will become fact checkers and they'll be like, okay, this is false, that is false. But the idea here is just for common people to question what they are receiving. Right now, it is like people are so much, they accept anything that is aligning to the pre-existing belief. So if something is embedded in their head over these years, and as Ruby says, are set over the years, it is not just that 5th of August, the Bangladesh crisis happened and suddenly misinformation has, we can see there's a uprise in that. It has been set over the years. So to break that, even, I mean, breaking is also a very big word, just to question that is something that can be achieved through media literacy. And I feel that through trainings that I have taken, I know that it actually has a positive impact. Obviously, if I'm training for example, if I'm training 100 people here, 100 people are not going to turn out to be very proactive fact checkers. But something that I feel we can like encourage, I mean, even for this Bangladesh crisis issue or before that, we were going through a major election in India. What we tried to encourage was, we tried to also encourage fact-checking ambassadors. A lot of times when you encourage people, community trainers to become, you become the voice of your community. You go and tell them. Because a lot of times, as we know, India is a huge, huge population. So me going to any place and, getting inside people's houses and telling them, okay, you received this message from your family member, he's wrong. Nobody is going to accept it. They are going to be very, very stubborn about that. Who are you? Why are you coming and telling this to me? Because there is there is always a huge blind trust that we have, that our audience has on Indian media, the mainstream media, press, news, and the rest. So here we have also tried we've also tried to bring in the idea of creating probably fact-checking ambassadors, that, okay, encouraging community trainers that, okay, I cannot go, I will explain it to you, you bring in the audience, we will explain it to them together, that there is a difference between fact, there is a huge difference between opinion and humor. Sometimes a lot of people, I feel, take opinions very personally and then it turns out to be a disinformation or a misinformation.
Thank you. Thank you. So 30 seconds for Rahul and Swasti and Shishir. We are finished.
Uh, I just want. I just wanted to add something.
Yeah.
Please understand this from a psychological thing. Ideologies are there. You spoke about few names, and then there are others on the side. They have huge fan following. a isolated incident gets picked up by either of them, posted, millions of their followers, so it was an isolated incident that wouldn't have even made news. So somewhere they are also playing the same game. I mean, it is good when you talk from, this guy does this, oh, he is the savior. But please understand, there may be a isolated incident. Like just now we talk about.
No, I mean, our purpose of work will be totally null and void. So I don't think fact checkers can be influencers. That is why the community here is silently doing our work. I mean, you will not see us, putting out huge amount of comments on X or other social media platforms because we follow a totally non-partisan approach, and that has been our main principle to fact check. And the moment we keep that in mind, I think we'll be accurate in verifying information.
Thank you. Any last words, Shishir?
So I don't have anything to say other than we need to identify, actually we need news literacy and information literacy to tackle this huge web of disinformation. If I or anyone knows what is a news and what qualifies as a information, it is kind of enough to differentiate between what is not news and what is not an information. So this is what I can say as a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the dear audience, thank you for listening. And I apologize for getting you so late for your lunch. So we have to listen to the literacy of our hunger. So thank you very much.
Thank you. This was an amazing panel discussion. Our sincere thanks to the panel moderator. As a token of our appreciation, Professor Shuman Rahman would now hand over crest to our esteemed panelists. So, Ms. Swasti Chatterjee is getting the crest from Professor Shuman Rahman.
Hello. Hello. Okay, just when I'm on the dais, I just wanted to propose something. Like Dr. Suman, you were speaking about recurring events. So I don't know how we could do it, but if we could have a recurrence events repository for South Asia. How this is going to happen, I don't know, but someone here who specializes can take a lead. If we have that repository in coming few years, I think we'll be half sorted with. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Ms. Swasti, thank you. Ms. Drabanti Ghosh. Ms. Drabanti Ghosh is getting the crest from Professor Shuman Rahman. Thank you very much. And we must mention Ms. Ruby Dhingra. Our virtual thanks goes out to you, and a big round of applause. Mr. Rahul Namburi, our sincere thanks. Please receive the crest from Mr. Professor Shuman Rahman. And of course, Mr. Qadruddin Shishir. Thank you very much for your time and valued participation. Please receive the crest from Professor Shuman Rahman. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Somebody once told me that if you really want to impress your guests with your cooking, make them wait. So we made you wait. Please enjoy your lunch. Come back after 30 minutes and you can fact check this. Please come back after 30 minutes. So we will start our third session at 2:45. Thank you. Enjoy.